Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back, 'cause it's root for the home team. They don't win, it's a shame, 'cause it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Welcome to Let's Get To, the baseball show from the fans' perspective. Now here's your host, James Christopher. Let's Get To presents the first pitch. Opening thoughts from James Christopher.
And welcome to Let's Get To. Now you might notice off the bat that we have a different set today. We're in the middle of doing some work for the house. Some of you have seen that on social media. And the office will gradually disappear before being rebuilt again. You might also notice that right now I am shooting the show in 4:3. I have no real reason for it. I just feel like it really completes the vision that I have for this show. Actually, Zach, that was stupid, okay? Whatever you're thinking, it was stupid. So yeah, this is our show today, and I want to talk a little bit about kind of what the focus of this season's going to be, and particularly when filtered through the travels that Jessica and I are going to make, and Andrew Nelson and I are going to make, and Andy Tom Chess and Scott McIntyre, and all these guys that we're going to be making this year through the lens of Let's Get To. And it's going to be about searching for the soul of baseball. I am not going to be doing any Major League Baseball games this year, except for one. I keep using the caveat except for one, so that way those stupid Yankee fans that hate me for some reason can come, oh, I thought you weren't going. I've said it before, and I've said it again, and I'll say it again. I'm taking my grandkids to an Astros game because I don't want that love for the Astros and for Major League Baseball to fade because I'm making a political statement. But that's the only one. And the rest of it's going to be about finding the soul of the game. And I really believe that the soul of the game doesn't exist when you're talking about people that are making millions and millions of dollars a year. I am not against making money at any way, shape, or form. But like, I'm assuming everybody who starts a small business with a passion, once that thing grows, the passion for the thing stops and the passion for wealth increases. I want to be rich. I do. I said it before. But no, I'm looking for the soul of the game. And I really believe that that's going to be found in the minor league baseball. And it's going to be found in independent baseball. And it's going to be found in collegiate summer league. But I think I already found part of it. So my wife, for my birthday, gave me a season ticket to something called the SandlotRevolution. And it is essentially amateur, independent, adult baseball. And so we went out to the Long Time, which is where they play, which is this beautiful, rustic looking field. It's fun. Instead of no pepper, pepper's encouraged. The outfield wall is like loading crates, those picket things, where you can see teams like the Texas Playboys and the Capital City Cobras, which is the gear my wife got. It was in many ways exactly what my soul needed to sit on what was admittedly a rainy, dreary day in Austin, Texas, and watch a couple of teams play ball. And they played hard. They had fun. They drank beer between innings. It was, again, everything that I felt like I needed at that exact moment to remind me of why I love this game so much and why I dedicate so much time to talking about the game. So we're watching a game between the Austin Grackles and the Austin Jardineros. And it was a blast to see these guys, again, like all ages out there just playing this game that we love. And at one point, the Jardineros pitcher hit a guy on the Grackles. And the Grackle guys, going to first base like you do. And this is overhand pitch. This isn't slow pitch softball. This isn't what you play with your company. These are guys out there getting it. And they are playing hard. And at one point, the batter going to first base said, don't worry, I know it wasn't on purpose. And a member of the Jardineros, the pitcher's teammate, was like, that'd be pretty badass if it was. And it just something for me, it kind of really grabbed what that was about. It was fun and it was a good time. And I can't wait to get back out. I'm going to go out and see the Houston Gamblers play the Texas Playboys. And some of these names, I mean, the Houston Gamblers, old school Houstonians know that. The Texas Playboys is a great reference to the Bob Wills. You know, Bob Wills is still the king. Bob Wills and his Texas Playboys. You've got the Oak Cliff Pelicans. You got the Cap City Cobras. You've got the Austin Senators, which again is a throwback to Austin's baseball past. So there's just so much fun to be had. So I can't wait to get back out there. I think we're going to get to go 2 or 3 more times with all of our travel that we have planned for this baseball season. But it's perfect, and I can't deny the hot dog was delicious.
Show me the merch, the best from the pro shop.
And welcome back to Show Me the Merch. And we've got some stuff from 2 of my favorite brands in both affiliated minor league baseball and collegiate summer league baseball. Now, first I'm going to start with the Fayetteville Woodpeckers. First, I got their State 5950 Flex Fit. I really dig this hat a lot. It's got the woodpecker in the state of North Carolina. I love the cockaded woodpecker. It really brings me back to my old school Army days when if you saw a tree with the red cockaded woodpecker, you needed to tell someone because it's highly endangered. But it's a great hat, and you know, we went out to Segra Stadium in 2019, which feels like a decade ago now, but had an amazing time. Victoria and the team are just some of the best, and we really hope to get out there in the next couple of seasons to come. Now, they are an Astros affiliate, and being a smart Astros affiliate, they absolutely embraced some of their Astros heritage with their red and black and gray rainbow jerseys. I am someone who will never get tired of that look. I think any of you who've watched the show for just a small amount of time know that I'm highly into anything rainbow. Now, one of the new teams that we're going to see this year, new to us at least, is in the Northwoods League. And I'm a big fan of the Northwoods League. I think they are one of the best ran organizations. And one of our favorite brands from the beginning, just surfing through social media, is the Kalamazoo Growlers. Now, first of all, we got their Flex Fit cap. This is one of the few word mark caps that I have, just the letter K with the bear claw grind, the baseball. I found out, as I picked it up, that I generally speaking am a team logo guy, but I decided to go with the K this time. I don't know really what prompted it. We will be up there in July to check out the Growlers, and we can't wait. But speaking of the logo, I did get a logo tee, and this thing is awesome. There's a lot of different ways to brand a minor league or an independent or collegiate summer league team. And people's mileage may vary, and I'm a little easy with it. I kind of like them all. And I like the idea that a Growler is a pretty mainstream idea of a logo, and then it's executed perfectly with the navy blue and the gold. And it's really what you want, is you just want to have, if you have a brand with an identity, and we're going to talk to Allan Miller, part owner of the Portland Pickles and something else a little later on in the show, but it's about finding what that identity is and then executing it. And, the blue and the gold, the state of Michigan, what's better than that? Now, we do have one piece of merch, and this is for my Astros fans who wear a size large. Astros fans who wear a size large. Again, like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm in a very different spot than I normally am when I record, and that's because my wife and I are getting ready to do a massive remodel on our house. And what that means is digging through boxes to find things you haven't seen in decades, or a decade, or since sometime in the early 2000s. So I dug up this. It has been washed, but it is the actual 2005 Houston Astros NL National League Championship T-shirt. It's funny how you view things. In 05, I bought every T-shirt, NL, and then would have bought a World Series T-shirt. In 17, because you don't know when that stuff's going to happen again, and again, it had been 12 years, I bought everything. 19, I didn't buy any ALCS stuff till much after the fact, after the World Series was decided. But anyway, I don't wear a size large. I haven't worn a size large in quite a long time. In fact, I'm not sure I wore a size large when I bought this particular shirt. And so what I want to do is give it away. So Astros fans, who wear a size large, what pitcher did Craig Biggio face in his first at-bat as a major leaguer? What pitcher did Craig Biggio face in his first AB as a major leaguer? The first person to answer that on Twitter will get this shirt sent to them and maybe a little something else from the show. So definitely go back and check out the Fayetteville Woodpeckers. Check out the Kalamazoo Growlers. Buy their stuff. When you buy merch from these teams, you're not just buying it from an MLB team with all the money in the world and all the licensing agreements in the world. You're buying it from small businesses who love baseball so much that they are working their rear ends off to make it happen. These small businesses are here for you. You can be here for them, and buying some really cool merch is an excellent way to do it.
Who's on first? The Let's Get To Local 9, brought to you by Zoomer Sport.
We are super excited to welcome back to the show, friend of the show, Andrew Feltz from the Round Rock Express. I wanted to see, Andrew, first of all, I don't know about you, but I don't really get into basketball, and now I'm very sad that I invested this year.
I was going to say, yeah, I'm right there with you. I, too, am not a huge basketball guy.
Oh, no.
Yeah, my entire, I think, right side of the bracket is shot after, like, day 2. So, yeah, I've been watching for fun now.
Yeah, because you're in the pool with us, the group with us. And at one point, I was like, look at you. You were up front. And then I don't think anybody's together, though. It's been crazy.
No. Yeah, it's wild. I think I had Ohio State in my championship game, and they lost like 3 hours into the tournament on day 1. So I was like, okay, that's pretty much pack it up for me.
Yeah. I had Texas, Ohio State.
Okay. Oh, geez.
Yeah, that's rough. But, it's not rough, is we're going to get some baseball back. And I want to start out by one, and I've talked to you about this before, but again, commending you for, I think, handling 2020, you guys and your whole team in the Round Rock Express, handling 2020 as best as it could be handled. You had baseball, you pivoted, it felt safe. We used it as an example, you guys, to other teams that consulted us on how to do it. So just again, congratulations for pulling that off.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And, we kind of looked at it about a year ago today. It feels like at the end of March of 2020 and said, this is a boat we're in, and let's figure out how we're going to keep moving forward. And we're blessed that, we're in the county where we are, and we have the support of our county and our city, and we were able to do what we did. It was, looking back, it was just a crazy 12 and now entering 13 months, but man, we can't wait for baseball to come back.
Yeah. It's weird too, is I think that obviously, we're going to really evaluate how this went 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And it does seem like you guys had the right solution of mixture of still being able to do stuff, but being safe about it. So again, definitely kudos to you guys. Now, we also had what I refer to as the late unpleasantness, which was the shifting of minor league baseball affiliations. And, I don't want to go into the Astros going a different direction and how that was communicated, because I know you guys have to be excited about being back with the Rangers again, which is a partnership that was very successful for y'all for a long time.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head. We were, of course, with the Rangers from 2011 to 2018. It was one of the most successful stretches in Texas Rangers history. And we were, really, really blessed to be a part of that. And I think looking forward, it's exciting. It's exciting to build those relationships back up that we had in the 2010s and look at kind of the future of the Rangers. And of course, they're in a rebuild, but you look at how cyclical baseball is, and you start working through the draft and free agency and building guys and putting pieces together. And so it's really exciting to kind of get in on the ground floor of that with Texas and look at, what this team might be achieving 3, 4, 5 years down the line, and to be right in the middle of it at the AAA levels is certainly exciting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a blast to be back out there. So talk to me a little bit about 2021. Like, what do we know as far as what's it going to look like? I saw that a lot of teams at the major league level, a lot of different plans. The Rangers are going to be at full capacity for the first game or two, and then go to a number. The Astros have announced that they won't go over 50%. What are we looking at as far as Del Diamond goes?
So we received at I want to say end of February, early March, a document from Major League Baseball kind of outlining what their expectations were for AAA clubs and how to operate and really minor league baseball as a whole. But one of the things, they mentioned was this thing that we've become all too familiar with, which is this pod style seating It's groups of seats. Each group of seat is 6 feet away from the next closest group of seats. And the way our ballpark's configured, we've got groups of 2, groups of 3, all the way up to 7, 8, 9. So if you had, a larger group, we've got a little spot for you with 9 seats. That's 6 feet away from the next closest. And so that's what we're operating on to start the 2021 season. We're certainly optimistic the way things are trending with the vaccine and larger groups opening up, especially here in Central Texas. I know our county just this week opened the Phase 1C, which is another huge step forward.
Sure.
But right now we're under the guidance of Major League Baseball and the protocols that they set forth. And so it'll be, if you've been out to Del Diamond, very similar to our concert setup, how it was during the Texas Collegiate League over the summer, the pod style seating, socially distant concourses, ingress, egress, those sorts of things. But like I said, we're optimistic about the way things are trending, and to see the Rangers, of course, our parent club now, working back in 100% capacity. It's definitely something to be optimistic that maybe once we get to the 4th of July or into the second half of the summer, that potentially we could be on the track to having a bigger crowd in here.
Well, I'm going to be out there for the 4th of July game, so I would love to be surrounded by more people than just tape. So I'm looking forward to it so much. Let's talk about the fun stuff, though. What are you most excited about? Getting back out there. What are you looking forward to the most as far as creeping back into normal?
I tell you what, we've said for the last 13 months, or really, I guess 18 months, going back to the end of the 2019 season, which was the last time we played, just how emotional opening day is going to be. To get folks back in here, for it to be Round Rock Express, affiliated AAA baseball, is just going to be really, really special, really emotional, I think, for a lot of people, for a lot of different reasons. And so that's kind of been the thing that's really driving us forward. But when you look at, we had a pretty robust theme nights, giveaways, the sort of fun promo stuff lined up for 2020. And a lot of that's been put on hold. We'll implement a lot of those things coming up in 2021. But what's really exciting to be in this market, Del Diamond is almost within a few miles equidistant between Globe Life Field in Arlington and Minute Maid Park in Houston. And so this market, you've seen it being in Central Texas, is very split, Rangers and Astros. And, it ebbs and flows depending on the success of one team. But there's a lot of Rangers fans in Central Texas, and there's a lot of Astros fans in Central Texas. And one of the fun things for us about the way that this 2021 schedule broke out was it's really skewed heavily toward geography and opponents that are regionally closer to you, bus trips, things like that. So with us and with Sugar Land being, 3 hours down the road, I think it's 24 of our 60 home games are against the Skeeters. And so it's going to be fun to have that, Texas rivalry. We've got a lot of, like I said, giveaways that had been planned for 2020 when we were an Astros affiliate that we're going to push to 2021. So to still bring in Astros fans, to have the Rangers component now in that rivalry is going to be really fun. And these two teams are going to be incredibly familiar with each other by the time we get into this. Because I
think that helps. I think it's one thing that's maybe missing at minor league baseball is a certain – and I know that y'all did a really good job on your end of trying to kick something off with San Antonio in 2019 of that sort of battle for 35. Mm-hmm. But this really could be, especially as the Astros-Rangers rivalry gets more intense. Like apparently they have a map of Texas in their locker room that Houston isn't on the map. Like as that fires up, that's going to be something y'all can really dive into.
It really is. And there was so much negativity and so much consternation over contraction and all those communities that lost their cities or lost their teams. And, I think we are at a point where you need to kind of be glass half full moving forward. We're going to play baseball. One of the positives that came out of this, at least for us here in Central Texas, was those geographic rivalries. To add Sugar Land just down the road, to renew our rivalry with El Paso, we'll play them numerous times a year now that we're in the same division as opposed to opposite conferences in the old Pacific Coast League. Even Oklahoma City. I know we've got a little rivalry in the works with them that we're going to incorporate. A Dodgers, Rangers, West Coast, kind of California to Texas type of vibe.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really fun stuff I think we can do this year, not only with Sugar Land, but with a couple of our other opponents that are geographically somewhat close, but that we'll be playing a lot more.
And did I hear you correctly that you said that, like, even though I know you had a couple of theme nights that were Astro specific, you're just going to go ahead and have them and just kind of, I guess you don't really it's not like a breakup, like where you had to send your box of stuff back to your old boyfriend or something, right? Like,
all right. Yeah. I know we have a Yordan Alvarez bobblehead that we're really excited about. We have a replica ring, and it's not where we are currently, but it's part of our history. To say that Yordan Alvarez came through here and did what he did for it seemed like way too long before you got called up. But, that's still something that we celebrate. And that's really what minor league baseball is all about, is giving these guys a place to train and develop and work on their skill set and ultimately get called up and contribute to their parent club. So I think stuff like that, there's some carryover from 2020 into 2021. But like I said, just make the most of it, and we're going to have some fun and have Rangers fans and Astros fans in here together this year.
I think you hit the nail on the head, and it's actually the thing that we have been sort of the guiding principle of the show is, we fought our fight the way we could fight it as far as stopping some of this contraction, whatever humble ability we had to do that. But it's happened. And now we're going to move on. And most of those teams our cities did find another bit of baseball. But I think the one tragic thing to come out of it is I just can't get down with AAA West, man. I missed PCL. I missed Texas League. Just as a fan, that really bums me out.
I do too. And I'm a more traditional, maybe more nostalgic baseball fan. And to see, 120, almost 120 years of the Pacific Coast League name, and same thing with the Texas League as well. I know they have a 100+ year history. To see those names go away is really kind of sad. And we were laughing in our office when those names first came out. Of course, AAA West is the league we're going to play in, and then we are in the East Division, but the other division is the West Division. So we were saying, what does that T-shirt look like? The AAA West champions.
It's just the West with a 2 up there.
Exactly. Or the AAA West East Division champions, or however that. Yeah, I'm hopeful that maybe once we kind of get playing a little bit, and it's like, hey, maybe we bring those names back and honor that history a little bit. The Pacific Coast League, geographic footprint. I mean, we kept 9 of the 16 clubs that are in the same spots. You lost a lot of the teams on the eastern side of the Pacific Coast League. That you have people say, why is Omaha and Nashville and Memphis in the Pacific Coast League? And so geographically, I think that makes a little bit more sense. But yeah, to see that name go away was pretty disappointing.
I actually have a feeling we're going to get it back with some sort of sponsor, like maybe it'll be the Let's Get To PCL or something. We don't have that kind of money on the show. So I do want you, as we wrap up, for you to help my wife and I out with something, because we are huge, monstrous Round Rock Express fans. But we also have a soft spot for the Skeeters. They have been we're friends with those guys, and they're part of the. So do we wear a mixture of both gear? Do we wear no gear? How does that work? Or do we just say, you know what, we're Express guys, and that's what we're wearing, even in Sugarland?
You put me on the spot here. My heart says, you've got to go Express all the way. That's the hometown team, right?
Right.
I will say, I'll play devil's advocate here a little bit, and don't tell our merch guy, but every series is 6 games, and that splits evenly into 2. I'm just saying, it's 3 games and 3 games. I don't know how you want to work that, but
yeah. Well, I guess that actually is the last question. What do you like about that, though? These longer homestands, is there a plus to it, a minus to it? Is it a benefit or a way it doesn't necessarily work out for you?
I think the biggest thing overall and what it was designed to do was travel costs. And so for us to be able to bus somewhere, play 6 games, bus home, or if it's a flight to fly, play 6 games, where in the past it was, we might fly to Albuquerque, play 3 games, fly to El Paso, play three games, and then fly home. And so you're talking about extra sets of flights. And now it might be one flight to Tacoma, you play 6 games, a flight to Salt Lake, you play 6 games, now fly home. Now you're getting in really twice as many games on the same number of flights. And so I think that's going to be a huge benefit. Then I think just from us procedurally turning over different teams, different locker rooms, different lineups, different managers, all these things, to have longer series, I think is going to be helpful. And then you talk about too, from the health and safety part of it too, to have less, guys coming through the clubhouse every single day, or at least the same group of guys for a little bit longer, more familiar with our safety procedures and all these things. I think there's, like you said, or like we said earlier, it's like at the point where we're looking for benefits. There's a lot that you can pull, I think, from this strange kind of 6-game series setup.
I do think overall, though, I actually think a lot of it has worked out and looks to be better than I even expected it going in. I was pretty down on it, but I think that it's actually going to be a great experience for everyone. And we're excited to be back with you guys this year. I think it's going to be a fun season and something we really all need. Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. It's encouraging. We're optimistic. It's going to be a fun year. And, 2021 is going to be different. It's going to be strange. It's going to be something like we've probably never seen before. But the momentum going forward, you look at to bring baseball back in 21, to get maybe more sense of normalcy for the 2022 season. And then
it's rocking and rolling from there on. But it's exciting. You feel like the avalanche of fun is about to take off and start going. We can't wait.
All right, I promise this one is my last question. And a lot of the teams that did but pivoted differently. I'm thinking of the normal Corn Belters in the Prospect League, did a pod last year. They decided to do both, their regular Prospect League and have a pod. Did y'all consider like, hey, let's also do a TCL team, or y'all just really glad to be doing Express Baseball?
That's something we discussed. It's kind of, you go through the experience we went through in 2020 and really nothing's off the table in terms of what's possible and what can we do. And that was something that we looked at and kind of sat down on the budgeting side. And I think it ultimately broke down to, why we're here and what we do is Round Rock Express Baseball. And we want to be able to give our fans, even if it's a reduced capacity, we want to give them 100% the Express look, feel, and not that continuing the Texas Collegiate League or anything like that would take away from that experience. But we really wanted to be able to focus 100% of our energy on bringing Express Baseball back, doing it the right way, staying safe. And that's our outlook going into 21.
And we can't wait to be out there. He's Andrew Feltz of the Round Rock Express. That is our favorite AAA team, and we will definitely be wearing some gear even into the unfriendly confines of Sugarland. Andrew, thanks for jumping on again.
Absolutely. Love it. Appreciate you guys.
Let's Get To presents Good Wood, knocking around the majors with Andy Tomchesson.
We're jumping into some good wood with Andy Tomchesson. And Andy, this is the mark of a true fan.
That's funny because I'm drinking Longhorn Tears right now.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't realize we were a basketball school until everyone kind of melted down. I don't really follow it, as you know, and I don't think you're not really a college basketball guy either, are you?
I mean, it's fun when your team's in it, but I'm not one of these, oh my God, the tournament started today, I'm going to start watching basketball at 8 a.m. and continue to do that for the next 5 weeks. That's just not me. I probably was really heavy NBA at some point, especially when the Rockets were good, just because you had Olajuwon and those teams. It's interesting because when I was a little kid, before knowing any better, I was kind of a fan of Phi Slamma Jamma because, again, those teams were really fun to watch. I had no idea what I was looking at. And fundamentally, it was very much a street ball kind of thing. But I could see where it's fun if your school's in it. But I wasn't hurting that A&M didn't make the tournament this year, especially after watching Texas lose to Abilene Christian.
It was a fun 2.5 hours of being in the tournament, I guess. I think I went to 3 college basketball games the entire time I was at UT. And the only cool part that I remember was that Mac Brown had brought a recruit and was really nice to me.
Well, there you go.
There you go. I do want to jump into some of this baseball stuff. It is good wood. And, we want to talk about some of these new rules that I'm interested to get your take on them because I don't hate them as much as everyone else. But they basically, for some background, at different levels of the minor league baseball, there have been some new rules that we know are going to go to the major leagues. Let's start, Andy. In AAA, the base is going to go from 15 inch to 18 inches. The idea being they're citing player safety, closer, fewer bang plays, and wider space from the first baseman unless he's a crook and a piece of crap like the guy in L.A. that time last season. But also might increase steals and stuff. Overall, thoughts on the larger base?
I don't want to give Scott McIntyre, host of the McIntyre Mule, any extra attention because I know he thrives on it. But he is right from his perspective of when baseball's popularity has increased overall from a rating standpoint, from an attendance standpoint, it's when players were stealing bases.
Right.
So from the standpoint that this should enable players to have more of a chance to successfully steal bases, I don't hate this one. There's always going to be part of me that I think, and we can say this for all 6 of these new rules, that the purity of the game says leave things alone. It's okay the way it is. But I think one of the things that would be interesting and enable us to move away from the 2 true outcome baseball or 1 true outcome baseball or whatever outcome you're going to talk about is enabling teams to start developing a running game again. And that's not just Bijan Johnson or whatever the hell his name is. It's actually having Miles Straw have some value to your team, if you want to use an Astros reference there. The Cardinals of the 80s would not have been the Cardinals of the 80s if they weren't stealing bases.
The Athletics with Ricky Henderson.
Correct. And so if you're going to increase that and you're going to increase the excitement that people have and you eliminate some of this game is boring because nothing's happening, well, things will be happening if more players are taking bases. So it's not a bad move.
You know what I also think it's going to do? I think it's going to allow for more upstart teams because you see like the Royals a few years ago where a lot of times when you have a bunch of young guys, you got a lot of fast guys. And so it might give them the opportunity because obviously we know that plate discipline, all that stuff, generally speaking, comes later. But if you get on base and you can make some stuff happen, I'm with you. I kind of dig it. Now, the next one I'm very interested in because it's something that the Astros do as much as anybody, and that is defensive positioning. So the new rule says, and they're trying this out in AA, teams are required to position 4 players in the infield. Each player must have both feet in front of the outer boundary of the infield dirt. In the second half of the season, MLB may also require that teams keep 2 infielders on each side of second. Basically, it's banning the shift. Overall, your take?
I don't like this one, and it's not just because the Astros are one of the bigger shifting teams or utilize shifting more. I think overall what you're doing here is removing strategy from baseball. And it's a problem because, as you just mentioned, teams that don't have the resources of the Yankees or the Dodgers to go sign everybody they want to have to rely on younger, quicker players. But they also have to rely on their brains and their ingenuity, which is, a lot of what we've been trying to get to the last number of years in baseball with Moneyball from the Billy Beane group in Oakland, to the Royals being able to put together a World Series champion in 2015, to the Astros to a large extent, although they were helped out not only by strategy, but also from a deep dive into analytics. Yeah, and the desire to spend money and go get a Justin Verlander and do those kind of things. But why are you penalizing a team like the Pirates who may need to shift to compensate for a lack of power elsewhere if they can keep scoring down from the other team? That's a way to win. You're taking away a way to win from a bunch of teams. And that doesn't feel great to me. I understand the argument for it because you're requiring Joey Gallo to learn how to hit the other way, and he's never going to do it.
Look, I'm lockstep with you on this one. I completely agree. I think, as we saw, we've actually seen it a bunch in spring training. Kyle Tucker laid down a bunt yesterday because they shifted against him, and he just let it roll and pretty much walked to first.
And I think that's the other thing is you're looking – I don't mean to cut you off, but you're looking for a solution to a problem that the players could fix themselves. If you don't like being shifted on, hit to the other field, they'll stop doing it.
No, I think that is exactly it. And it isn't just, the argument – you see some of the sports writers, particularly in Houston, yell at fans when fans say hit the other way. Well, gee, it's that easy. Well, yeah, maybe it is hard to learn to hit the other way, but dropping down a bunt up the third base side is not difficult.
Well, and we saw it in your favorite movie, Major League 3, Back to the Minors. The kid got pulled up to the Twins, wasn't ready, came back down, and Buzz Cantrell taught him how to hit to the other field. He became a mainstay in the major leagues, and they won the big game. And
and Walton Goggins, baby, you can't go wrong with that. We're about to get into some more rules that are similar but separated. So I want to start with the step off rule. Now in high A, basically pitchers are going to be required to disengage the rubber before attempting a pickoff throw. Violation results in a balk. And I want to go first on this one. I actually love this rule. Particularly when it comes to left-handers. It does seem I don't know. It's always seemed unfair when you have a left-hander on, trying to hold a runner on that he doesn't have to really leave the rubber. So for me, I'm a favor of it.
I think to stay consistent with, liking the increase of the base sizes in AAA, this is only going to help teams develop a running game when they have base runners. So I'm for this.
So and then now in low A, and then this is something we've already seen in the Atlantic League in 2019, which feels like a decade ago. In low A Southeast League, select games will use the electronic strike zone. Apparently they've tweaked it. Now they're going to be able to enter in size and height of player. Baseball America showed that my favorite photo ever of Aaron Judge and Altuve together at second base to illustrate that that's needed. Sure. Overall, though, are you a grumpy old man on this, or are you down for the electronic strike zone?
Well, first of all, how baseball is it? How Major League Baseball is it that it just occurred to them that, players are different heights, so maybe strike zones should be different sizes? That's Rob Manfred in a nutshell right there. Every player's Aaron Judge. Why wouldn't they want to be Aaron Judge? They should just get taller.
Just be taller. Yeah, love it.
I cannot have this conversation without thinking about Angel Hernandez, and thinking about Angel Hernandez makes me hate things. So I don't want to hate this, so I like it because it replaces Joe West and Angel Hernandez, or at least initially gives a frame of reference for how off they may be.
Yeah.
It could turn out that if you're going to use this as an overlay and evaluate umpires against it for a while to teach them to get better at their jobs, that might be a nice midpoint. But I think eventually it's just silly that we allow humans to bring their human biases and grumpiness and everything else into what is a very simple, this is a strike, this is not. Here's the rectangle. Here's what the rules say. It says letters to knees, except that's not what anybody calls it as.
No.
And if you ask hitters, they don't really care as long as it's consistent. So if this brings consistency, then I'm all for it because I think it increases offense. I like seeing offense. I don't care how long the games last, frankly. It doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother me at all. I'm like more baseball. Yes.
Exactly.
When we had Tyler Stam on, again in 2019, the GM of the Sugarland Skeeters, he talked about how it would work, and he did point out that it wouldn't be like R2-D2 back there, which immediately disappointed me. I definitely wanted R2. Talk about, can you imagine a guy giving the manager of the business more than R2-D2?
I really feel C-3PO would be a lot more analytical about his approach.
Probably would. But he did point out that they also will still have a home plate umpire that can override the strike zone when needed because there were some problems. Theoretically, a curveball could bounce and then go back up into the strike zone. So obviously they want to work that out.
Right.
In low A in the Western League, which, God, these stupid names. This is a thing we'll talk about later. But
I mean, you know where it is. It's the West. It's Western League. It's low A over there.
Low A.
West.
They're going to basically speed the pitch clock up from 15 to 20 seconds. Now, we should point out, too, that they've had a pitch clock in the minors for years. It has worked its way up, and I think the idea is to gradually, as more pitchers graduate, reintroduce that at the major league level. Overall, where are you on a pitch clock?
I hate the pitch clock. Now, I will be the first person to say that I admire pitchers who pitch fast.
Yeah.
Loved watching a Roy Oswalt game because he just pitched fast. He didn't take a lot of time thinking about what he was doing. It hurt him one inning every game, but that was the approach. I like that approach from a fan standpoint. But I also think, again, you're taking strategy out of the game. If a pitcher needs to mess up your timing as a hitter and needs to sit there for 45 seconds before he throws the next pitch, why are you trying to eliminate that part of the game? All you're doing is increasing offense, but increasing it artificially by putting your pitchers in even more of a defensive position.
Well, and also too, I don't believe there's any punishment for the batter to keep readjusting his batting gloves, right?
Right.
It doesn't seem like if you're going to say you're both you're in the box from the beginning to the end of your AB, that's one thing. But I tend to agree with you. I don't understand why you would take that part of the game away.
Yeah, and I think all these things, and I know you said this before we got on, all these things are intended to increase offense. But great pitching is part of baseball.
Yeah.
And if you're handicapping them, I know people like to see offense, but very few people like to see 15 to 12 games.
Well, I was just going to say, I think sometimes I'm more jacked if I come out of a 2-1 Astros win than a 15-14 Astros win.
I mean, winning a World Series notwithstanding, I think my favorite game of the playoffs was that opening game against the Yankees in the ALCS in 2017, where I think it was a 1-0 game.
With Altuve walking it off, right? With
Altuve. Yeah, Altuve coming around third and ignoring Gary Pettis' sign, as he will.
Well, that's because Gary Pettis doesn't often put a stop sign up. So to be fair,
you were surprised to see one.
He just didn't know what it looked like. So our last rule, and this is where I get to the point where I think now I'm definitely on your side on this as far as not being for it. This is the pickoff limit. So across low A, pitchers will only be allowed to step off twice per plate appearance. Any subsequent throw over must result in successfully retiring the runner, or it's a balk. Again, the strategy. So you're saying Miles Straw, who's arguably the fastest guy in major leagues, top 3, only has to get 2 throwovers, then he can just pretty much walk to second base. I don't understand this rule at all.
Yeah, it's super weird. And again, I don't want to be a hypocrite, so I want to see people stealing bases. But what you're basically saying is that I have to survive 2 pickoff attempts, and then I'm going because I know you're not throwing. I know you can't throw over. And now you're relying on catchers to throw me out. And honestly, catchers don't have to do that a lot anymore, so your success rate should be higher, except against the very best. I appreciate wanting to increase offense, and I certainly want to see more guys running the bases and not play station-to-station baseball. But this, again, is part of baseball is strategy. And if you have a Ricky Henderson who is a threat to take second or third at any given moment, why wouldn't you do everything you can to prevent that? And if that means throwing over 10 times, it means throwing over 10 times.
Well, and it also takes away the element of the game that does help the offense. How many times do we see a guy a pitcher throw? I hate it when Astros fans boo when, you have a guy trying to pick Altuve off, because to me that means he's distracted. By all means, feed Brantley or Bregman a biscuit because you're more worried about the guy on first base. I think it does take away something special from the game.
Yeah, it's overall, to your point, I don't hate a couple of these. A couple of them I absolutely do. But until you're going to, and this goes to a larger conversation, but until you're going to allow teams to really be on a even financial footing financially, you're going to have to allow teams to use strategy to win games the best way they can. Up to and including, I'm going to say this, trying to steal signs.
Yeah, I think the funniest part about all of that, with the Astros thing, and honestly, not just the Astros, but the Yankees and the Red Sox and everybody that's now scurrying to hide it. When I tell people who don't really know baseball, they're just like, I thought that was just part of it because it should be. To that end, as we wrap up, then I don't know if you saw this, but they're basically bringing video back into Major League Baseball, the dugouts, through the use of iPads this time. Mm-hmm. One would argue that Manfred created this problem in the first place by allowing video to be accessed without imagining that players are going to try to find a competitive advantage using it. Do you think they fixed the problem, or do you think it's just now more convenient?
I think the fact that the Astros weren't cheating in 2019 and that it really didn't work, based on the statistical analysis in 2017 to a large advantage, maybe a 5 to 10% difference in offensive output. They quit doing it in 2018. In 2019, they started putting MLB personnel in each dugout to prevent exactly what the Astros and Red Sox and Yankees and Dodgers and Rangers, and I can keep going on because it was all 30 teams who could afford cameras. Okay, so leave out the Royals.
Yeah.
To prevent it. So if you're going to invest in that personnel to manage the situation, I don't have a problem with it. I think that you saw in 2020 what no video looks like, and you had a lot of very low-scoring, sloppy games that were not great from a enjoyment perspective. But that was also, they changed balls mid-season. There's a whole lot of other stuff that went on to that. So I think there's a way to police it and still let the players have the tools that they want to have to do as best as they can in the game. Because you're not just talking, ultimately about the enjoyment of the fans or the integrity of the game. You're talking about the livelihood of 40 guys on each roster. So if you're limiting in how good they can be because they don't have tools that have been available to them all through the minors and up until 2019 or 2020, you're now going into a free agency period, which doesn't surprise me that with the CBA coming up, that's a whole different – we could do this show for another 30 minutes. Yeah. Why would you try to inhibit somebody's ability to hit? Don't inhibit somebody's ability to hit. If you can do that and you can police the illegal activity and the activity you want to prevent, then I think you should absolutely do it. Manfred also needs to stop pretending that it's not widespread, but that's a whole other thing. He is Andy Tomkesson. We're going to be back next week, Andy. We're going to talk about the new balls in the MLB, and you're going to give your MLB predictions next week. Almost there, buddy. The void is. I think there's no better place to talk about new balls than in a Goodwood segment.
On deck, the Let's Get To interview.
So we're excited to welcome to the show Mike Sellers. Mike is huge baseball fan, big baseball traveler. And Mike, first things first, before we dive in, I do have an apology to deliver to you from Baseball Santa. RE, no George Springer for you. Did you get AJ Hinch?
I got AJ Hinch. That made me really happy. I was hoping for the double there and getting both of them, but I'm still satisfied we got at least one of them there.
Let me ask you this before we jump into all of this stuff. But how has the whole acquisition of AJ Hinch been? Because I got to imagine at least one Tigers fan was very like, I don't want anybody from that team. Oh, great, AJ's here. Like, how has that been?
I was one of the Tigers fans that actually wanted him because even though the Tigers are my team completely, I actually have rooted for the Astros the last couple of years anyways. As you know, I'm a big Springer fan specifically. Yeah. So I actually thought AJ Hinch was a great hire because the Tigers are in the process, about the same point in the process that the Astros were when they first brought in Hinch. So I feel like he's the perfect guy to take them to the championship, just like he did with Houston. So I was thrilled. As soon as I saw that he was a possibility, I had my fingers crossed rooting for him.
Well, I definitely am going to root for him too. There was a big collective moment during Astros Twitter when they posted the first lineup card, and we saw that very meticulous 3-colored markered handwriting, and there was a lot of people going, "Aw, Dusty just prints his out." So tell me a little bit about just your history with baseball. How long have you been into the game? How long have you been a baseball fan?
Okay, so I've been a baseball fan my whole life, but when I was really young, I was more of a football fan. Okay. Until I got this job when I was 20, and the company put together a softball team. Oh. And they asked me to play. Yeah, I'd never played before, but I was like, that sounds fun. So as soon as I started playing that, just like I said, I was already a baseball fan, but that just took it to the next level. And then a couple of years later, my brother asked me to go on a road trip, and I was like, I'll go on a road trip if it's to see baseball stadiums, but otherwise I'm just good staying here. So it's just taken off and gotten more and more every year since then.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, first of all, your situation. As we ask at the Oscars, who are we wearing today?
Okay. I got the Nashville Sounds here. Okay. I'm from Southwest Ohio, near Cincinnati, but Nashville has always been like my favorite city. I try to go there at least once a year. So I'm a big Sounds fan, and I'm wearing, if you notice, this is their older uniform set. I was super bummed when they changed the logo for 2 reasons. One is I just thought this one was like the greatest logos in all of minor league baseball. It just screams Nashville. And so I was bummed they changed it to anything. Yeah. Then when I saw the new logos, I was also just like, this is just kind of boring and dull and doesn't scream Nashville at all. So it was just like a lose-lose. So whenever I get a chance to pull a plug for these old logos, and I always do that.
Did they change when they became a Rangers affiliate?
Yep, that's they did. They actually changed to this when they went to the A's for 4 years, and as soon as they went back to the Rangers, they changed again.
The Rangers ruined everything. That's been the premise of my whole life.
Yeah.
And you got some hats back you. So you're a big merch guy.
Oh yeah. That's another thing. I started about the same time I started getting in baseball. Kind of to go back to when I was younger, I was a baseball fan. More than I really rooted for one particular team, I just rooted against the Yankees. So always been one of those guys that's like, I don't have to just wear my favorite team's hats. Like, I'll get more of those. I don't know if you can tell back there, but I got a bunch of Tigers.
Sure.
But I basically rooted for anyone but the Yankees when I was super young. So when I started getting hats, I'm like, I'm going to get the Tigers, of course, first, and I'll get a bunch of new Tigers every year and whatnot. But I'm like, I'll wear anyone's hat except for the Yankees.
Except for the Yankees.
So I first started just collecting with the goal of getting the 29 other Major League hats. And then after a couple of years of doing that, I didn't quite reach the goal. I got to probably high teens or so.
Okay.
And then that's when I started getting into minor league baseball, and I kind of took a pause from the Major League hats and started getting as many minor league as I could.
One of the things, it's interesting, I was Eric the Peanut Guy, who I know you know on Twitter, basically has kind of a rule that he will not buy a hat unless he's at the park or been to the park. I, as you might be able to guess, don't have such a rule. What about you? Where do you fall down in that whole area?
I'm like you. Now, if I go to a park, that makes me want that team's hat way more. But
right.
I'll just, like, whenever I see a deal online or just a hat that I just got to have, I'll get it whether I've been there or not.
So
I also like to get them. I also like to get them before I go to the park sometimes, so I can wear it while I'm there.
Yeah, I'm definitely have to play some like hidden camera tricks with my wife sometimes, because I'll buy one at the park and she knows I definitely packed one in our bag on the trip too. I just sort of, because you want to support, and that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
You are a big ballpark traveler, and I want to do major leagues first because you shared with me, I've never seen anytime I can see passion brought to a nerd level, I'm all about that. And you created a spreadsheet in which you ranked all of the MLB parks that you've seen. Please tell me about it, starting with how many and what some of your criteria, because you had Minute Maid, I thought, a little low for me.
Yeah, I don't know how detailed you looked into those rankings, but I've been to 22 parks now, and the middle pack there, probably from about 9 to 17 or 18, are just a few points difference on my rankings. So I could just make a few slight tweaks, and number 17 or whatever could easily jump all the way up to 6 or 7. So even when I look at these rankings, I'm thinking the same thing sometimes. I'm like, no, wait, this one's not the 17th best, but I'm like, well, all these other 16 are probably better because there's just so many good parks.
Give me an example of some of the criteria and how you weighted things, because it's really fascinating what you went into.
Thank you. So I started on these road trips with my brother, and we're both big stats and numbers guys and stuff. So as we're going on these road trips, once we got to about a double-digit amount of ballparks, we're constantly talking like, well, which one's your favorite? And just with no specific criteria other than just what's in our head and talking it through. But once we got to about a double-digit amount, we're kind of like, we got to come up with some sort of system for this. It's like, we know we're not going to get a perfect thing, but it's like, if we come up with a system, we'll tweak it as we go, and maybe that'll get rid of some of the bias. Like for me, I go to Comerica Park, and I can't help but think, it's a little higher than maybe it really deserves. But if we come up with a system, it'll take a while to master it, but if we come up with it, that'll just hopefully take away the bias of it. So what I did is came up with a handful of different categories, I think about 7 categories or so. And my idea was I'd score each of them just 1 to 10. And, the total points would dictate what the best one was. But as I was doing those categories, I'm like, some things are easily way more important than others. So the thing I count as the most important is the structure category, which is obviously literally the stadium itself.
The building itself, right.
Exactly, yeah. And what I count as the least important, but something that still matters to me, is the stadium sign. So I'm like, that's a big difference. Like if it's a perfect stadium sign and I give it a 10, that can't possibly be as important as a perfect structure that would be a 10.
Right.
So I'm like, we got to do something about that. And then what came to me was, I don't know if you're a big football fan or not, but okay, so are you familiar with the passer rating then?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Which no one actually knows how to figure out, but yes.
Right.
It's
right.
like war, but harder.
You're right. Yes.
Yeah.
So I looked into it. Don't ask me now because I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. But I just looked into enough to get a general idea. And how they do it is, they multiply certain categories. So I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like, instead of actually doing multiplication, I'm just going to give the higher categories a higher ceiling. So, for example, the structure is the most important thing for me. So I give it ranking on a scale of 0 to 55. And once again, the stadium sign is what I count as the least important. So I only rank it from 0 to 5. So I'm like, perfect stadium sign, still only counting 5 points here. Whereas a middle of the line structure would be, 20, 25 or so. So I've got all those different categories, and the total perfect stadium would basically be 185 the way I have it right now. As I go on to more ballparks, I tweak the system from time to time. I might be like, you know what, the structure is a little more important than I thought it was. I'm going to cap it out at 60 now, or vice versa. So yeah, that's the basic general idea of the system.
But you know what though? It's fascinating because now that you're going through it, and I was thinking about Minute Maid, and like I would take points off for the fact that the train no longer matches the colors of the team.
Yeah.
So like it's black, it's that old black and red, and they won't paint the train. I've tried to start petitions. How much of it is would you give when the park, for example, has a kind of a lame, clearly just a sponsor name? Like if it's, Dodger Stadium is one thing, but US Cellular Field or whatever it is another.
Right. So I don't actually include that as any part of my actual rankings. Like it can be a terrible name, it won't affect it. Okay. But my personal feelings is I don't hate the sponsor names, the corporate names like most people do, as long as it's not something stupid like Guaranteed Rate Field.
Which I think used to be US Cellular, right? Like
yes,
they had two in a row that were bad.
Yeah. So yeah, but something like I'm from near Cincinnati, so we got Great American Ballpark. When I was younger, I didn't even know that was a corporate sponsor. I just thought that's a cool American name.
Yeah.
So I like that one. And even if it's not, something like that, if it fits the city or something like that, like Miller Park, until they just changed that, I thought that was a perfect match there. So I liked that. And Yankee Stadium and Dodger Stadium, those are, of course, historic. Those are fine. But you get to like Marlins Park and Nationals Park, and I'm also kind of like, all right, let's be a little more creative than that, even if it does mean a corporate sponsor.
Actually, fair enough. So before we dive into what you got coming up in 2021, that's where we are now because time is a flat surface, flat circle. Everybody's going to want to know what your top and your bottom is. And have you ever thought about making these public so people can see them?
I have thought about doing that, and I just haven't determined like what's the best format for doing that. Like some of the people that I know on what I call my Twitter family, which is the minor league baseball and just baseball fans in general, I've met on there, like you and Eric the Peanut Guy. Sometimes I'll be like, I'm going to share these with you guys specifically because I know you'll enjoy it, and I get good feedback for what should I tweak and stuff like that. But I haven't come up with the perfect format yet for how do I just share this in general.
Yeah, it seems like that would be some sort of highly involved website, but I think people would go for sure. So what do you have as number 30? And or I guess number 22, since how you've been to number 1.
So I will first say the 8 that I have not been to yet, just so anyone of fans of those know, but they're not in
yeah, right.
So I've not been to any of the NL West, none of those 5.
Okay.
And then I have not been to the A's, the Mariners, and the Angels. So I haven't been to the new Rangers Park, but I was at the old Rangers Park, so that's one of my 22.
Okay. And do the Rangers, when you go to the new park, lose points for stealing the design of Minute Maid Park?
Actually, I have a category for uniqueness. So yes, technically they would. That would score lower on the unique factor. So yeah, but I was trying. Last minute the World Series was being played at the new park, and I'd not been to any new major league parks last year. I'm like, I wonder if I can work this out to try getting one of those rare tickets so I can see a new ballpark this year. But by the time they announced fans were even allowed, and with the limited capacity, and being in Ohio, it just didn't work out. But yeah, so number 22, ironically, is other than my hometown Reds, this is the first one I went to. So when I went there, I was like, oh, this is awesome, just seeing a new park. But now that I've seen other ones, it's like, okay, this is not very impressive. Is Nationals Park. And it's not even so much that I think of it as a bad park per se. It's just that there was like literally no character to it. I didn't feel like it was anything special. It didn't have even that one thing that's just like, oh, this is really cool. And they had the opportunity to do it with like a backdrop of the Capitol or the monument, and they still just put these construction buildings in the background. I'm like, what the heck?
I've never been. I can just imagine, like, you could have turned it a little bit this way, and
exactly. Yeah. And you can go, there's like a spot of, I think it's left field. You can go like all the way to the top, all the way to the corner, and kind of look around, and you can see the monument, but
kind of crane your neck.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not really giving it any credit for that.
Okay.
So, and then you want to know what the top one is?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. The top one for me with a score of 153 of the possible 185. So still not perfect, is Kauffman Stadium for the Royals. That one is just,
okay.
Have you been there?
No, but I've heard nothing but great things.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's kind of hard to even explain somewhat, but there's obviously the amazing scoreboard, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
The waterfall in the background, the like structure of the building is like unique with the shape is kind of hard to explain, but it is it's unlike any of the other ones I've seen. And then as a nice little bonus, one of my categories is the area. So that's kind of hard because part of me likes a downtown ballpark because there's things to do right there, and you got better backdrop and whatnot. But part of me also likes the ease of just getting in and out, no problem. And and this one's like 10, 15 minutes outside of downtown. It's just like, it's almost like when you're road tripping and you get off to get some gas, you just get off the highway right there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. And this huge parking lot. So parking's ease. So that one gets a little bonus for that too. But
the parking issue is real. I was disappointed, I think, when you for Minute Maid score in that area because of just everything there is to do, right? All the good restaurants and stuff like that. But maybe I just need to take you myself. And
I think you do, because I will say that the fact, like, for me, I go to Reds games all the time, so I'm super familiar with the area and all that stuff. When I'm road tripping on all these other ones, most of these I've only gone to once, and most of them I only will go to once. So if I just go, if I don't know the right place to park, I might park in the worst part of town. Maybe it's some places it's a Saturday night, so it's more busy. Other times I'm seeing it on a Tuesday afternoon.
Sure.
So there's things like that are nothing to do with the park's fault, but it's just the way it is. And I do remember when I went to Houston, it was a night game, and where we parked, it seemed a little sketchier, and we had to walk farther. And so I scored it a little lower on the area because of that. And it is one of those parks that I was talking about earlier that's in a tight window to where if I just bumped it up a few points, it would bump up a handful of spots. So that's my excuse for that.
We need to fix that. Before we run, obviously minor league parks are very, very different compared to what you look for in a major league ballpark. For you, as someone you're visiting a new park, what do you look for and what makes a good minor league baseball stadium?
Well, and really any ballpark, the first thing I'm looking for is the backdrop, because the structure, if I'm ranking the ballparks, the structure has got to be what I make most, or what I count as the most important. But the backdrop's number two, and that's to me what signifies the real the difference between every park. But with minor league specifically, one thing that you take for granted in like a major league park that I like, that's important to me in a minor league park, is if you can has a full wraparound concourse.
That was one of my questions.
Was it really?
Yeah.
That's a big deal to me. Now, there's plenty of good parks I've been to that don't have that, but if it's got that, that instantly makes me like it way better.
Oh, well, no, I completely agree. Any place you have planned yet for 2021?
Yeah. So actually, I'm supposed to throw out the first pitch at 2 different minor league games this year.
Look at us. You and I are like a rotation.
Right? I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of them is the Quad City River Bandits. So I'm going to make that a 3-day trip and include the Peoria Chiefs and the Beloit Snappers on there.
Okay.
And I think the timing will be before Beloit actually moves into their new stadium, which is kind of a pro and a con for me. Like, obviously, I'd rather see the new stadiums, but it also means I can see that ballpark and go back again some other day and get 2 ballparks.
Sure, right.
Yeah. So I got that one. Those ones planned for sure. The other one I'm supposed to throw out the first pitch for is for the Indy League High Point Rockers.
Nice.
So I don't have the date scheduled for that one yet, so I don't have a full plan, but I know there's a bunch of ballparks around North Carolina, and I fully intend to see at least one more while I'm down there. And the last one I already have planned is my family. We go on a family vacation every year, and I'm part of a big family too, so it's hard to get us all to agree on dates and location and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
And I tell them every year, I'm like, all I care about is go to an area that has some minor league baseball. I'm like, it can be an hour or 2 away. I'll travel, but it's just got to be in an area like that. So typically it's in the Smoky Mountain areas, which again is plenty to do. But this year we're going eastern Pennsylvania. So I was looking at dates and what teams are at home. And so I think I'm going to get to see 2 of the Binghamton Rumble Ponies, the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, and the Reading Fightin' Phils. Probably not all 3, but at least 2 of them.
That's awesome. I was hoping we would interact or overlap. Maybe we will. He is Mike Sellers. He is the baseball traveler. We're gonna have him back on the show a little later on. Mike, thanks so much for jumping on Let's Get To.
All right, thanks for having me.
Let's Get To presents This Just In, news from around the baseball diamond.
All right, so we're here on the breaking news segment. This guy might look familiar to you because he was on not too long ago talking about 2 other ventures. Mr. Allan Miller is here. And Allan, I want to let you unveil the breaking news dramatically.
Well, we were very fortunate to become part of the ownership group of the Cleburne Rail Roaders, which is the independent professional team that plays in the American Association, which we think is definitely the best of independent ball. And so we are super, super excited. And of course, with every new brand comes new logos, new redesigns, and all that fun stuff.
Let's talk about how that happened in the first place. How did you get interested in moving out of collegiate summer league ball? And before we dive into it, here's your ultimate compliment. There's a guy who covers – you did an interview with him, covers sportslogos.net, and we've nominated you for baseball commissioner. Hopefully you're getting a phone call someday soon. But how did that happen in the first place?
Well, we're always a lot of us got locked in last year, and we really spent a lot of time out there just looking at a lot of opportunities. I think from my background and what I love the marketing aspect of it. I love the event aspect of these teams. So we really looked at a lot of different teams to see where there could be a great opportunity for us to come in as an owner and build out the things that the team may have been weak doing. In that process, we got to meet the owners of the Cleburne Rail Roaders, and they really were very excited about what we brought to the table and really saw an opportunity for a lot of the great things that we do. And so the more we kept talking about it, the more of a great fit it turned into being. And so I say, we're always kind of on the hunt for these different opportunities and experiences. And this was such a great fit for us for a lot of reasons. It is really close to Dallas and Fort Worth. So we're right there in a major metroplex. And I obviously, I spent a lot of time in Austin. So it was very convenient in that respect. I think the 2 things that really got our attention, though, is one, it is one of the most beautiful minor league level stadiums I've been to. They spent somewhere around $30 million in 2017 building this thing. And when I say it's a nice facility, man, there is, you've got an incredible locker room situation. You've got luxury suites. Almost all the seats are in the shade for night games. And as in Texas, that's a really important aspect of it.
Yes.
the bones are there. And then the other part of it that became so incredible is there's 115 years of history in this town with baseball. And the more we started to learn about it, and going back to the 1906 team that featured Tris Speaker, 1911 championship team, and then learning about all the other teams that played in and around the area became fascinating. So we really wanted to tell that story and educate people who had no idea that this team is there and how much history has been behind it.
One of the things I want to laud you on, I don't think I've seen very often a redesign or a new look drop with almost universal universal approval and acceptance. And I saw people just, I'll be honest, I was late getting to the initial drop to watch the press conference, and I looked at my phone and it was like 15 messages just blowing up about this thing. I also love that you've captured the old with the look, but in a modern way. How important really was it to make it, it's a cool name already, so you really just had to flesh it out, but to really make it feel like old-timey baseball. And I will say, if you can see behind me, the letters on the leg, before I even read it, I knew that's such an old school Astros thing to do, and I loved it.
Well, thanks. I really believe in, and I would say, it's really important. Our designer, Kevin McLaughlin, who is a huge Uni fan, and we worked very closely together on this. A lot of this came from his initial vision. But what we both agree in and are both really big proponents of is that everything in a logo has to have meaning. Everything. I mean, everything from a color to a font choice to a hand design to why something's there to how do you integrate things that have meaning to the local, have meaning to a national level, have meaning to baseball. It's just something we believe in. We're also, people think because we're with the Pickles that we're this crazy, wild, outlandish thing. And honestly, our real aesthetic is heritage. Our aesthetic is really traditional, very clean. So when we talk about jerseys, we want this to be reflective of the past, but have a really interesting modern take on it. And, I think that all of our jerseys do that in different ways, which was really exciting. And the one, it's interesting, and you can tell me being a fan of this as well, is we kept Spike, the mascot. And I will say I can't think of many other rebrands that still keep an aspect of them and just change it a little bit. And that was something we wanted to do. We didn't want to kill Spike. Spike's a great mascot. We just wanted to give him some company. And that's what I think the rebrand does.
Yeah, and I think that was a strength. I think what it does is it shows you the vision you guys have of it's sort of easy to come in and just change everything to change everything's sake and then make it temporary and change it 10 years later. Like you said with the Pickles, I mean, that's a beautiful jersey the Pickles wear with the script in blue. Like it isn't – I love them, but it isn't the Savannah Bananas. It isn't that – there's a place for that too. Obviously, they're very successful what they do, but the old school baseball guy in me and then all the staff of my show were just like back and forth at just this look. But talk a little bit about Spike. He is a cool mascot. And then you added another one. Who did you add?
So Spike is a cool mascot. He is a Spike though. I think what we always kind of got back to is, he's a little bit limited in what he can do because he's a Spike. But what we did introduce is we introduced Gandy. It turns out Gandy was down by the railroad. He was kind of bummed out because he's not allowed, they finished the railroad. He doesn't have a job anymore and he was super bummed. But luckily, Spike ran into him. He took his hammer, he attached it to a baseball bat, and he gave him a new gig. And he said, come on down to the stadium and hang out with us and we can have fun all summer. So Gandy is this old school rail bum guy who's a hard-working guy, works on the railroad. Has a great mustache. I think, we're celebrating mustaches here. I mean, I think one of Spike's great things is Spike's got a great mustache. Gandy's got a great mustache. And, there's a lot more about Gandy that's going to come to light in the next few months. But he's a very important character moving forward for us.
How important is it though, to really build a story? Again, the description of the uniform changes is exhaustive, and it does really touch back to all these points in Railroaders history, including the Astros connection, which I was unaware of. How important is it though to really make sure that brand and that identity is three-dimensional?
It's super important to me. I mean, I don't know if everyone shares that. I would probably say for most people who are in baseball is their number one focus. To me, it's not. To my focus, my number one focus is is building a brand, building a story, and really being a part of history, being a really important part, being a part that is really influential of the people around you and support the community in ways that are really unique. So we think about all those details exhaustively, as you said, right. Because we think they're really that important. I don't think everyone else does that. That's why I have a career in marketing. That luckily we're able to help out a lot of cool brands and a lot of other teams. But I think it's really important, and I also think that it's important that everyone should be different, and they have to really, I wouldn't work with the same designer on 10 different teams. Right. You have to, whatever aesthetic and elements that we want to go forward with, we have to make sure we're working with artists and designers as well that really speak to where we're going and have a real strength for that type of design element.
Looking down the road, you mentioned being the American Association, and I agree, it is probably pound for pound the strongest and most solvent of the independent leagues, even with losing St. Paul in the offseason. They also lost the Air Hogs, which were at least a close proximity team for Cleburne to play. Do you see the American Association kind of growing more south to take some of the pressure off the travel for you guys?
Yeah, I'd say there's absolutely no doubt there's going to be more teams coming through. I think that the real reality is that people are starting to just discover what independent baseball is. And I would even say 5 years ago, it wasn't really even on my radar to the level of what it is now. And I think that's just because of the natural progression of baseball and teams and leagues and what happened with minor league baseball and the contraction in that. And, it creates room for a lot of competition and a lot of great players. And so I really think that these leagues are going to grow from a talent perspective and also from a market perspective. I think this is something that's really going to build out. I'm also really bullish and excited about, the collegiate wood bat level. I think it's incredible. I really like, and I think that people can relate to, and I think both these leagues do a great job of, these are the guys on the rise. There is a AAA, I think, has been in the past really, argued that these are guys on their way down. Sure. And there's merit to that. But I think from the independent level we are, and for the collegiate wood bat level, these are all guys on their way up. So the amount of optimism and excitement around these players is really high. So I think as we continue to market that and show people how great the talent level is, how, from wood bat, you're getting guys right out of first round, these guys are going in the first round of the draft. And then you go into independent ball and say, these guys were drafted. They didn't get their bats because they're limited. But these guys are right there. And I think when you see what our player announcements in Cleburne, this guy was in the Brewers Association. The guy we announced on Friday was in the Red Sox Association. We just got a guy from the Orioles. So you're seeing guys that you just can't get the at-bats with the roster sizes the way they are and with fewer teams. So we're going to give guys chances who, with no question, are going to be picked up into the major leagues straight out of the season. And we've seen it, once you start to look at where they're coming from, it's a big talent pool.
And honestly, Allan, there's nothing more like American than that, is people just fighting that's why I love it so much. It's why we love you guys so much. And I do think that someday I'm going to be doing, whenever you're commissioner of baseball, don't forget me. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, listen, this is the way how it works. We've got to have people doing what you're doing and supporting all the teams and letting people know about what's going on out there, because, without that, people don't get to explore. They don't know that there's teams in their backyard. They don't know if they can drive an hour and have an experience they never thought of before. When 20 years ago, it was hard to discover. There wasn't cool maps and a lot of these things that we have now and people really talking about these things. You went to your local team and that was it. And now I feel like everyone's minds are being opened up to saying, oh, I can go see the next guys. Oh, I can get an experience. I can sit behind home plate and not cost, my kids college tuition. I think it's a really big part of it.
You're right. Well, Allan, we are going to be out there on May 22nd. It'll be my first time with the new look. I did go to 2019. I brought a no-hitter against the Rail Roaders with me, so we'll make sure that gets fixed. Jessica's first time. Allan, thanks so much for jumping on Let's Get To again.
Anytime.
Holler and a Swaller, a chug of Ballpark brew, presented by The Hitter Sports.
And so we are excited to welcome for the very first time on Let's Get To's Holler and a Swaller segment, we have a guest. We're bringing on Brad Quello, who does the Twitter account Ballparks and Beer FC. And it's a lot of fun because honestly, Brad, I don't know about you, but I think people are craving a beer at a ballpark now more than maybe ever.
It's fantastic to see some of these photos of people at some of the spring training games with beer. I think we're getting close. Again, trends are looking good. People can now get to some of the ballparks. It's going to be a great time.
So talk to me a little bit about yourself and the Twitter account and why this sort of decision to really focus on baseball and ballparks through that lens, that amber-colored lens, if you will.
Actually, as I like to call it, the Twitter account is celebrating the crossroads of baseball and beer, and why I kind of did it. I've been on Twitter for a while, just on my personal account, never tweeted, and so a couple years ago, let me do a little bit more. I've been going on baseball road trips with my buddies. We've been going straight since 2004.
Oh,
so
wow!
There's a lot of experience just going to different ballparks, seeing everything. Again, the group of guys I go with, we all have common like for beer. So usually that's intermingled within our trips. And so really wanted to kind of help better engage. I always enjoyed Twitter. There's a lot of good information. Again, is there people that know more about ballparks than I do? Absolutely. Are there people that know more about beer? Absolutely. Like, well, how can I kind of fit my spot within the world? Like, well, let's just put the two together. And what I've actually found, it's just a great way to interact meet people that have similar likes, similar needs. Seeing some of these people that have, upcoming road trips, makes you get excited about what the possibilities are, think about what you can do within that. And then it helps from the beer side, just what are other people drinking, other breweries. I think that's helped kind of set some of the things we've looked at from the travel. Again, you can Google a lot of just beers and breweries, but trying to get that firsthand experience from those out there. You just throw something out there and hope you get some good input.
One of the things that I was thinking about, partly while you were just talking, is how it's changed from when I was, a kid to a young man where, I would go to Astrodome or go to Minute Maid Park and it would be some Budweiser product. The idea of obviously craft beer is even relatively new as far as how ubiquitous it is. How cool is it, or how important is it to be able to get some local flavor in a ballpark other than just getting, a Bud Light or a Budweiser, but getting to get a, Carbach if you're down here in Texas?
Oh, I think it's huge, especially for some of the ballpark enthusiasts that will want to have a little different experience, even for your traditional everyday baseball fan. Just get a little bit of flavor, especially that local flavor, regardless if you're someone traveling to a ballpark, if it's your home team, just to get that experience and some flavor. Again, some people they like the big brew beers. I like to try something local, and what we'll hit here in a little bit is the example I have is CHS Field. So one of the newest AAA affiliates with the St. Paul Saints. I like it. They have their craft brew corner. So out in left field, they have just one spot go for everything. It's like 15 different local breweries on tap. Just makes it super convenient for the guests, and particularly too when we're out on our road trips. That's one of the first things we do is we do a little tour around the ballpark, try to get that feel of what is our food options, what's our beer options, and just kind of get that sense and trying to get what are we going to go try.
Before we do get into the one, and I love that they're so organized about it, because sometimes it's like pulling teeth to even find a local beer at a ballpark. But I mean, do you sometimes look down at a ballpark if you roll up and you can have your choice between, Coors or Budweiser? I mean, does it kind of color your impression of the park?
I think it puts a slight negative. I haven't ever quite finalized a ranking system for that, and I don't know. Tough to kind of go back with some of these, but it definitely better experience, or at least better, especially from the Twitter side now, to actually get that engagement from local breweries.
That's a great point.
See that. So I think it creates a little more buzz out there than your Buds and Millers of the world.
So tell me about CHS Park. I know you wanted to talk a little bit about a beer you found there.
One I'm going to talk about is from Tin Whiskers. If you ever get a chance to come in here to St. Paul, again, it's a great. First of all, it's a great ballpark. Regardless that it was in the Independence before, it was a minor league equivalent to some of the best ballparks ballparks out there. And the one I want to highlight today is from Tin Whiskers. They're a nice just half-mile walk from CHS Field. So if you have an opportunity to hit the game, you can just walk right over to Tin Whiskers to do that. So again, that's just nice, super convenient. So that was my connection for today.
Yeah, and it's funny is one of the co-hosts of the show, Andrew Nelson, who is our Raiders of Lost Diamond segment, is excited to be he's a St. Paul Saints season ticket holder, I think for the first time ever. So he will definitely try out the Tin Whiskers. Now, before you go, I do have a beer to show off to you because it would not be Holler and a Swaller if I didn't awkwardly drink a beer on camera. And so I've got from the Clown Shoes Brewery, it's a Space Cake Double IPA. And I definitely felt like a brewery named Clown Shoes. You have to toast Rob Manfred, because is there anyone more clown shoesy in baseball than that individual? So it's our Space Cake Double IPA. We're gonna ASMR. That is a very IPA. It's delicious. It's like, are you an IPA guy, Brad? Or what's your sort of your poison?
I'm getting more into IPAs. My buddies are more into that. So I'm a little more in that mildness from the bitterness side. But yeah, I get my selection here for the day is going to be the Tin Whiskers Skatebot.
What a great can! Is that basically the Iron Giant?
Yeah, I believe so.
Wow.
The Tin Whiskers actually was founded in 2014 by a bunch of former electrical engineers. And so they have this combination of putting the kind of that science of brewing with kind of the art of brewing. And this is one of the limited series ones that they had. The skate, again, doing some reading on it, was after a remake of a skateboarding video game, which it looks like be Tony Hawk from what I was looking at. So yeah, IPA here. This one has a little bit, not too much. Again, 37 IBUs, International Bitter Units. I don't know if any of your people out there also are on Untapped. I like to do that to track my beers, get some of the scales of what they're. This one's 3.75, so not too bad. Let me just crack this one open.
Yeah.
And Jim, just for you, I do have my it might be tough to see. I do have my Carbach glass.
Oh, great.
We can use that as a story for another day.
Yeah. And then we can do, as so many people have done, we can toast on a Zoom call.
Yes. Appreciate that. Excellent.
Holler and a Swaller, baby.
Holler and a Swaller to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please adjust your scorecards. We have a special guest in the lineup.
So we're here with Erik Mertens, one of the best friends of the show. And Erik, I'm going to be honest, this is not coffee in my Vigilant Longhorn cup. It is the beer from the previous segment. Because that sucked.
What was the previous segment about college basketball?
No, it was the Holler and a Swaller segment, and I just figured we're going to keep it going. Yeah, between you and Gonzaga, and then the high school baseball coach at my school being like, "No, you should really watch these Longhorns. They're great."
Yeah, and then I was rooting for you the whole way. I was watching that game. I'm sorry.
But Gonzaga, I mean, yes. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Are they the only team to go wire to wire undefeated in NCAA history?
Not in history, no. There's been a handful of teams.
Okay.
In fact, and I'm going to sound like a fool, I don't know college basketball as well as I know minor league baseball. But I know a little bit. I think the Indiana Hoosiers were like the first team or the last team to go undefeated all the way through the national championship.
Okay.
And so that's the storyline, is that, hey, we have a team now in Gonzaga, go Zags, that could do the same thing in Indiana. That's kind of the cool storyline. But our game just finished. Our second round game just got done, and my mom and I were watching it together, and we were sweating, and I forgot how nerve-wracking these things are.
It's so weird because I am not your basketball fan, and I'll be honest, I was relatively over it about 15 minutes afterwards. I think you responded to the tweet where I was like, "Holy shit, am I like just what?" I mean, but you can't beat it for drama in the last couple of minutes. You just can't.
Your heartbeat races like it does in postseason baseball.
Yeah.
I love baseball because you don't have a freaking heart attack every game, and it's a little bit more relaxing with your buddies or your family.
Yeah.
College basketball is not that. It is not relaxing. Even when your team and your alma mater and your employer, like mine, Gonzaga University, usually wins by 20 points, it's different than a relaxing baseball game, that's for sure.
Why? I know you said you're not the expert, but it seems to me, as a passive viewer, that there do seem to be are there more upsets this year? Or is it just because I was on the receiving end of one?
Yeah.
Does it just feel that way?
No, I think there are. I don't know the stats, of course. I'm more of a fan than, a stats guy. But I was like, oh, my gosh, all these double-seeded teams are knocking off these high-seeded teams. That's why I'm kind of nervous, This is the best Zags team we've had, I think, ever. And we have the longest-running Sweet 16 streak in the nation. All those haters that say, Gonzaga always leaves early. It's like, well, obviously not. We make it –
No.
Sweet 16 for the – anyway, I won't get into that. But you're not wrong. I think there have been more upsets this year. Yeah. And
It definitely seems that way. My very best friend on the planet is a graduate of Ohio State.
Ooh.
And it was just – he's like, the worst parts were the laughing stock. And I was like, well, would like to move over and we could be –
yeah.
But Illinois lost, so there you go.
Yeah.
You and I think we've talked about this a bunch, and I will tell you that all of your appearances on the show, we always get a few people that will message me and say, I feel much better about the world after you and Erik talking.
Oh, wow.
It feels like it's turning around, right? Like as far as the baseball world goes and COVID goes.
Yeah. Hope has played, just the concept of hope has played a huge part in my spirituality in my life. I work in ministry at Gonzaga, so that's interconnected. This has been a rough year and a half to hope, not going to lie. But you're right. I think the past few months, at least for me personally, it's been easier to. And I start my workday every morning with a Zoom meeting with my coworkers, which sounds worse than it actually is. But I'm zoomed out. But we pray together. And the other day, my buddy Daniel, for our morning prayer, just put up a picture of the sunrise and played the song, Here Comes the Sun. And it was like this recognition of it's springtime, it's spring training. Well, he doesn't care about spring training, but it's, there is hope around the corner. And I think we're on our way.
Yeah. I think for me, my wife and I are fortunate to have both been vaccinated. And we had what I didn't know about a part of this epic birthday week my wife threw for me, a surprise dinner with her mom, and they got to hug for the first time in a year. And it was just, I didn't even recognize how big that moment was going to be until it happened. And then just realized, and they are very close. And so, I remember yelling at her, Jessica's mom, because we had brought the grandkids over. And I'm taking this good picture of her great grandson, and I look over and I'm like, "What are you doing? You can't be here!" Like, A, my shot's better, and B, it's poison. Yep. To see them hug was such a big deal.
I can't even imagine that. So I've thought about this a few times. I'm actually at my mom's house right now. I usually have all my minor league baseball hats lined up behind me, but I live in Spokane for most of the year, and then in the summers I come down to the Tri-Cities, my hometown, few hours away, and work for the Dust Devils. And that's where my mom lives. My dad passed away about 4 years ago, and today's his birthday. So I want to say happy birthday to my dad, and happy birthday to you, Jim. Good time of the year for a birthday. And she's fully vaccinated, and I've had one of my shots. Thank God.
Thank God.
Yeah, it's a huge gift, and I don't take that for granted. I know you don't either. But we did get to hug. We did get to hug on my dad's birthday in the house that he and she shared for decades. So that was very emotional. I will tell you, though, I'm kind of nervous. I'm kind of nervous about the baseball season only because my favorite thing to do at the ballpark, and I've done it for 20 years, or 19 up until last year, is I stand at the front gate and I welcome every single fan as they come through. And there's high fives and there's hugs and there's handshakes, and, see the kids and see the old season ticket holders who've been there forever. And I know for a fact some people are going to want to come in for that hug, and I'm not sure if we're ready for that as a society. I don't know. I'm a hugger, but I'm also very safe, and I want to keep people safe. So I think there'll be a lot of air fives.
I think there'll be a lot of air fives at first. It's interesting you bring that up, and I love how this conversation's already off the rails, like all of our conversations are. But
sorry,
one of my very best friends, the OSU grad, when Fauci said he didn't want to see handshakes anymore, like ever, right?
Oh,
he's like, yeah, because I mean, I guess at the end of the day, right? Like you are, but he said, I think the last thing we need to do is make it even harder for men to express themselves with levels of physical affection. If we're going to remove the handshake, what is there? But
right.
I think I really feel like we're going to hit July 4th.
Yep.
And it's going to start to feel like it used to feel again.
I can't wait. I sure hope so. I bought tickets to the Missoula Paddleheads for July 2nd. And I know there's some people from the online baseball community who are all going to be there as well. So I sure hope so. I sure hope that's the time frame. I've been told by our general manager of the Dust Devils that, they're still figuring things out in the front office about protocols and safety. And the whole state of Washington just entered phase 3, which I know every state has different phases,
sure,
with colors and numbers. So people are like, what the hell does that mean? Phase 3, great. But I think what that means, what I think I heard was that outdoor sporting stadiums and fields and arenas can have 25% capacity.
Oh, great.
And don't quote me on that, but I think that's what I heard. And so they're working out all the details. And I know there's teams around the country who've done such a great job with keeping people safe at the ball game. So he doesn't know if my role will be what it always has been. I go up and down the steps and sell peanuts in the crowd. I'm giving high fives. I'm on the field, emceeing the in-between innings contests. I might just have to stay in a bubble the whole time, or in a kiosk and do my calling from there. We don't know, but we're going to go with it, and it'll be great. It'll be fun.
It's going to be great. Have you thought about what, for me, there are certain rituals of the ball game that mean the most. The anthem is kind of my quiet time, right, to reflect on lots of things that I've been fortunate to get from this country. And, obviously the anthem means a lot of things to a lot of people, and I respect what it means to everyone, even if it's not such a positive experience. But for me, it's that, that 30 or 40 seconds where I feel at peace. And sometimes it's the only place I feel at peace. Have you thought about what some of those first rituals of baseball are going to mean to you when they finally happen?
What a great question. That might have been the best question I've heard in a long time. For me, I love visiting new ballparks. I love going to Geisa Stadium in the Tri-Cities. And for me, the moment that my heart opens up and it feels like Christmas morning plus Easter combined is when I walk through the tunnel and see the field open up for the first time. And there are some ballparks, like the Spokane Indians ballpark. Ooh, they have literal tunnels and they're pretty long. And you walk through and then you just see this thing. And you see the mountains. In the Tri-Cities, we are in wide open country. We're big sky country, just west of Montana, but big sky country. And so things are more open. And so for me, seeing the sky and seeing the rolling hills and the Columbia River, when I kind of crest, there's this part of the ballpark where it's not really a tunnel, but you crest it and you see it all lay out in front of you. And it feels like I can breathe easier. It feels like my heart starts glowing. So for me, that's what it is. I'm glad you brought up the national anthem, though, because, and I just have to keep bringing up my dad. Today's his day. I love him so much. I miss him so much. Russell Wilson was the Dust Devils' second baseman in 2010. And we're big Seahawks fans around here, so everyone loves Russell Wilson. And the Dust Devils are proud that we had him first. But his dad passed away right before he came to the Tri-Cities. He was drafted by the Rockies, came to Tri-Cities. And there's this great article in The Athletic where he said that year, it was the first year without his dad. He was on the other side of the country, didn't know anybody. During the national anthem, he would look out past the outfield fence. And again, you can see these rolling desert hills in the Tri-Cities. And he would imagine his dad being on those hills looking back at him. And so during the national anthem, that was his quiet time where he reconnected with his dad and would pray and connect with God, and then he'd be ready to play the game. And so I read that last year. That article just kind of came out recently. And so for me now, before every Dust Devils game during the anthem, I look out at those same hills. I remember what Russell Wilson said. I think of my own dad. And yeah, it's a very spiritual experience. And I'm really looking forward to getting back to that.
I am too. I think it's funny that you and I share one of the same moments. Sometimes when it's just Jessica and I together, she will cover my eyes. And so I get it all at once.
Oh gosh.
And she will sometimes it's awkward about it. She'll have to walk me up, but she will, because you're right. You're not going to get, it's like your first love. You're not going to get that moment back again. Yeah, I don't even know how to really quantify. I remember getting to go to the Round Rock when they had moved. So for last year, the Express became the Harrymen in a collegiate summer league.
That's right. And I love those hats.
They're fantastic. I'll get you one. Don't you worry. Because you've been there, so it counts.
That's right. Thank you. Thanks for remembering.
It counts. So we're at the ball game, and there was just the moment where I saw Jessica with a smile on her face, and she's like, "I just forgot how much I missed being here." And I do think it's why we get romantic about it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. There's last summer was unlike any summer for any of us. The absence though of baseball hit me harder than I thought it would. And it wasn't just the game. Again, I'm not a stats guy. I could care less about runs and pitch counts and stuff like that. But just that pastoral side of the game of baseball and the romanticism, the spirituality, the fact that your wife covers your eyes so that you could see it all at the same time. That's what we missed. Yeah, and God bless the athletes, and they did miss the runs and the years of service and everything else. But that's going to be the most healing element, is when you crest that tunnel for the first time and see the field, or you put your hand on your heart for the national anthem. Yeah, I cannot wait, and I'm very excited that you will be coming to experience that in the Tri-Cities this year.
I, for one, can't wait. He is Erik Mertens, Erik the Peanut Guy. It's Erik Mertens on Twitter. Follow him. You will not be disappointed. And we're going to have you back. First of all, go Zags.
Go Zags!
And now, on to close it out, the right-hander from Houston, Texas, James Christopher.
So as we close it out, I want to talk a little bit about women. And no, I'm not referring to the opening track of Def Leppard's Hysteria, a band I get to see again in Houston in just a couple of months. See, we're starting to feel a little bit more normal. No, but I want to talk about women. My mom is a strong woman who was the one who took me to baseball games and taught me the game of baseball, she and my grandfather. And I'm married to an incredibly strong woman who can do anything she wants to do, and she does it with determination and strength, but kindness and with compassion. And she lifts those around her up. It's really the best definition of a person. I had admittedly a small part in raising an incredibly strong woman. And my ex-wife, Janie, gets so much of the credit for how our daughter Jordan turned out, and watching her raise a strong woman in Kennedy, who will be a year so very soon. In my film career, I had most of my producers were women, strong women. Grace Hathaway comes to mind. Emily Joseph comes to mind. Sonia Melendez comes to mind. Teresa Kelton comes to mind. So many incredibly strong women. I am actually one of a few guys who works for the Austin Revolution Film Festival. It's a festival I own, but the backbone of the festival is Emily and Jessica and Grace. They are strong women who honor me with their presence, teach me every day about all the things that I think are important as we move forward as a culture and a society. I celebrate women in sports on this this show as often as I can. And it makes what happened with the women's basketball tournament all the more angering. It is disgusting. It is abhorrent. And when I listen to all of these guys talk about why do we have International Women's Day and where's International Men's Day, or why do we have Women's History Month, or why do we celebrate this thing or that thing, or why do we have LGBT, pride events, or why do we have Black History Month? It's because there are still people on this planet who think it is okay to intentionally provide subpar facilities for female athletes over male athletes. And I hear the arguments of, well, the NCAA men's tournament makes more money, but these are Division I athletes who have been playing their heart out for their schools just as hard as the guys. And that is where the merit is earned. It isn't about TV dollars, because remember, college sports is supposed to be amateurs. Well, the only amateurs in this situation were the ones who set up that situation. And I'm glad it's resolved, and I'm glad it's fixed. And obviously there's not a whole lot I can do on this show to help fix it, except for to continue to celebrate women, but to remind all of you guys who do your best to hide that misogyny that lives down there, all the things that you hate about society when it comes to celebrate people that are different than you. We do it because you're there. Because you don't actually allow things like actual freedom and equality to exist. So I'm glad they got it fixed. We need to do better. And I really hope we'll continue to do better. And I will always provide my voice, again, as little as it, as meager as it is, and how little impact I really have. You know, I don't pretend to be something that I'm not, which will be a topic next week. I just hope that we do better. So I'm glad that it's getting fixed, but we need to be the change in the world that we want to see. That is our show. We will be back next week to talk a little bit of the preview for the Major League Baseball season. As we said with Erik, we feel like things are getting a little bit back to normal. So just stay positive, stay sane, stay safe, continue to enjoy your families, and look forward to the day when you too can hug all those people that you haven't seen in a year. So again, stay safe, stay sane, and let's get to